What's up guys, Andre here, and today I'd like to take a look at the basics of AdonisJS. AdonisJS is a framework for NodeJS that is heavily inspired by Laravel. If Laravel was written in JavaScript, you'd have AdonisJS. So as always, we're going to build an example app to demonstrate the features of the framework. So we'll build out this to-do app from scratch and we'll learn the basics of Adonis along the way. Yes, I know to-do apps are boring, but as I've said before, they are a great way to learn a new framework because they touch all the CRUD functionalities without any complex domain knowledge. Now understand that we're building this out as a completely server-rendered multi-page app, so there will be no front-end JavaScript or Ajax calls, and we'll just be making full postbacks to the server. So quick demo of the app. It's a to-do app, so what you expect. You can create to-dos. You can obviously read them. Here's all the to-dos in the database. You can see there's flash messages as well. There's validation. So if I try to add one with no strings, there's some validation there. We can edit. We can either change the name and we can change the completed status here. So update to do. There you go, that one changed, and there's a strike through here, and obviously we can delete. So yeah, let's build this from scratch using AdonisJS. So as the title suggests, I'm going to be looking at this from a Laravel developer point of view. So I'm assuming you understand the basics of Laravel, and I'm also assuming that you know the basics of modern JavaScript. Okay, let's get started. So let's go into the get started. Let's go into quick start here actually. And first thing you have to do is install the CLI, which I've already done. So just do this npm install command. And then you'll have access to an Adonis CLI, very similar to the Laravel CLI. So let's go ahead and make a new, actually let me just stop this. This is the demo. Okay, so let's make a new one doing Adonis new, and we'll call it Adonis example to do. Okay, so now we can cd into it, and then we can do Adonis serve -- dev. So make sure you do the -- dev or your changes won't be reflected. Okay, so as you see, it's serving it up in this URL, so we can just go to it. And here is the boilerplate for Adonis. So let's go ahead and open this in VS Code and take a look around at the folder structure. So this view is right here in resources, views, welcome.edge. So as you expect, you can make changes here and it will be reflected. Similar to Laravel's welcome page. Cool. So let's go ahead and modify this and start our application. So I'm going to take out everything in the body. And so this style is just shorthand for doing this and giving the path of the CSS, so we can make use of that. I'm going to use bootstrap here, so let me just paste in a CDN to bootstrap. So instead of style, so this is relative to this CSS, but you can also hard code in a path if you want. And like I said, we'll be using bootstrap just so it's easy. And I want to rename this to index instead of welcome. So let me just change this to index.edge. Edge is the templating language, which we'll get into. And we also have to change the route. So the router is in, I think, start. Yeah, routes.js. So again, very, very similar to Laravel. Sorry, let me just remove that. So route on just returns a view here. So it's similar to route view in Laravel. So in our case, we just want to change this to index. and we'll get more to routing as we need it. So this should still work. Obviously it's a blank page. Let's just add some stuff in here. Let's see if it's using Bootstrap. And it looks like it's Bootstrap's default font. Okay, so I'm just going to paste in the Bootstrap template that I'll be using, and I'll go over it when I'm done. Okay, so here's how it looks like with some styles in Bootstrap. So very basic. I'm not going to go over it too much. You can just grab the code if you want to see, but just using mostly Bootstrap's classes and mostly utilities, because I'm very used to using utilities these days. Utilities. And I also have this external app CSS, which is right here in public, and there's only 2 rules here. So yeah, this is our starting point here. Okay, so let's start with creating to-dos in the C in CRUD. So we're gonna submit this text box with the form, and then we want this to create in the database. So very similar to Laravel again, Adonis. If you just do Adonis, you'll see all the commands available. And yeah, they look very similar to Laravel's. So to make a model, we can just do make model. So Adonis make model. And if you're not sure about the options, just tack on -- help. So in the options, you can see if you want a migration and a controller, you just do -m and -c, and we do want that. So let's give it the name. So it's going to be to do -m -c, and it's going to create a model, migration, and a controller. So let's take a look at that. So models go in here in app models. There's a to-do we just created. We don't have to touch this because it extends the model and everything we need is in there. Similar to Laravel again. And here are some default models, which we won't be using. The controllers go in this controllers folder, and there's the one we just created. Again, there are 7 methods for all the resourceful actions that we need. So yeah, we're going to be making use of this. And the migration is in the database folder under migrations, and here it is here. Again, very similar to Laravel. There's an up and a down method. And here is where we specify the fields that we need. So let's go ahead and specify the fields that we need. Very basic for our case. We only need 2 things. So table, string. I'm going to call it title. And let's make it not nullable. So this is based on a framework called Next, K-N-E-X. And if you want all the fields, just go to this URL and you can see it. And the other one we need is just a Boolean. And let's call it completed. And it's defaulted to false. Okay, so let's set up our database. There's also an .env file here. And the database connection defaults to SQLite. We want MySQL. And let me just set up the user, password's root as well. And I already have a database set up. It's the same as the project. So Adonis example to do. At least I think I have one set up. Let me just check. Yes, I just made it before. And one more thing we have to do is we have to install the MySQL driver for this to work. So if you go into the Adonis docs, and if you search for database, you get a 404. How nice of that. It's actually down here. There's a database section. So getting started. So here's all the supported databases. And from the looks of it, they only support relational databases, at least using their ORM. I'm sure you can connect a NoSQL database if you like. But if you want to use their ORM, then you're going to have to use one of these databases, and we do. So we have to install the driver, like I said. So we just have to do this. Okay. And now to migrate, we just have to do Adonis migration run. See if that works. And it did. So if you go into the database and refresh it, there are our tables and not users to do. So title and completed. Okay, now let's take a look at seeding and factories. Again, if you're familiar with Laravel, you should be familiar with seeders and factories. So let's take a look. So there's this CLI command to make it. So let's do that. Adonis make seed, it's called to do. And it tacks on the seeder to the end. So we have a to do seeder. So let's open that up. So it should be in database, seeds, to do seeder. So back to the docs. Okay, so let's try using them with factories. So again, factories is right here. And there is a version for users. We don't want that. We can uncomment it. We might use it later on. But we want one for our to-dos. So to do. And as you see, there is a faker instance here, similar to how it is in Laravel. And let's replace this with the to-do field. So title is let's make it a sentence. Sentence. And let's give it an option of words 5. And completed is false by default. So if you want to know how to use that faker, I believe it's using, what's it called right here, this chance.js library. So just go through the docs of that if you want to know how to create fake data. So if you look here, this is how you use the factory. So let's do this. Well, it's not exactly like this. Where's the one that has the model? Right here. So yeah, let's do this. Await factory, give it the model, and we can create many and specify a number there. So that's what we'll do in our seeder. So right here within run, we can just do that. And let's just change our models to do. And let's create 5. And let's save that. How do we... So it says factory is not defined. So we have to use it, again, similar to Laravel. So up here, we can just do const factory equals use factory. Let's try that again. Oh, sorry, not here. This is in the factory. So yeah, let's import it up here. Right here. Oops. So const factory equals, that's actually, it's right there. What am I doing here? It's right here. Just uncomment it. And now this should work. Okay, so I wanted to run my seed. So Adonis seed. So there you go, seeded database. Let's check out our database. There should be 5 records in here. And there we go. So if you want to be more explicit about the data and just hard code it yourself, which is what I like to do sometimes, especially when I'm trying to explain stuff. So let's go back into our seeder. And I'll leave this here. I'll just comment it out. So if you just want to make use of the ORM to make records, we can totally do that. And let me show you how. So again, we have to use to do. So const to do equals use. Let's give it the path app models to do. And then we can do a create, similar to Eloquent's create method. So we have to await it because it's asynchronous. So to do create, And then we just pass it in the data. So title, say finish AdonisJS screencast. And we can make a few more. So this one can be workout. This one can be take over world. Okay. So if we try that and seed it, this should add 3 more records. And it does. There you go. Cool. Okay, so this is probably a good time to show you the REPL, which is a way to interact similar to PHP Artisan Tinker. So if you look here, there is a REPL command. So let's try that. Adonis REPL. So yeah, just how you can do with Tinker, you can do whatever you like in here. So if you wanted to get all of our to-dos, we have to do this again. So const do. This is the use statement, like I just showed you. So app models to do. And let's make another variable called to-dos. And we have to await to do all. And now our to-dos are here. So as you can see, they come back as a vanilla serializer. And we just want the actual data. So to do that, we can just do todos.toJSON. And this should give us the to-dos in JSON. So there you go. And say, for example, you wanted to create a new to-do. So just do const to-do singular equals new to-do. You can also use the create method like I just showed you, but this is another way, just making an instance and then saving it. So we add a field to it, new to-do from REPL, and then to-do.save. I think you have to await it. And that should save this. True. Okay, let's check the database. There you go. Okay, so let's start working on our routes. So if we go to routes.js, so I want to make this RESTful and do everything in the /todos namespace. So let's do that. So I'm going to comment this out. And I'm just going to redirect to /todos on the home page. So to do that, just do this. And then this is how you do a callback. You have to async again. And then this is a callback. And we just want to return response redirect. Sorry, it's small r. To the URL. So /todos. And we have to pass in the response. We can destructure it out like this. And let's see if this works. Obviously, the to-dos route is not defined yet, but let's just see if it redirects. Sorry, that's the wrong one. It's this one. So this should redirect to /todos. Okay, cool. So now let's make a controller. So route get /todos, and let's specify the controller. We have this to-do controller, and the method, we want to go to index. And I also like to name my routes. If you watch any of my Laravel videos, I usually do this. Same at todos.index. And let's save that. Let's go to the to-do controller. And the index is right here. So to return the view, just do this. So return view.render, and then the name of the view, index. Okay, so let's see if this works now. So let's go to the home page, see if it redirects, and this should render out the page. Cool. Okay, so now let's work on posting, which will create a new to-do. So back to our routes. Let's make another one. It's going to be post. We're going to post to to-dos as well. This is going to go to the store function, and we'll call this store. Okay, save that. Let's go back to our to-do controller. Let's go to store, and let's go ahead and create a to-do. So we've done that a few times already. So const to-do. You don't have to do this const if you, but I'm going to do it anyways. So it would return the created to-do if you wanted that. So let's use the create method. Oops, to-do.create. And let's say title. And to get the data, we just do request, input, and the name of the field. So if we go to index, the name of the field for the form is, it's up here. It's this one right here. So it's called add to do. So let's do that. Add to do. And we also have to import this to do. So I'm going to do it right here. I'll do it up here actually. So const to do equals use app models to do. And now let's go to our form. And let's put the action in here. And you can just do the URL, or you can make use of the route names, and there's a helper for that. And it's just similar. No, it's exactly like it is in Laravel. So it's just route, and then whatever you named it. So in our case, it's todos.store, todos.store, and we don't need any parameters. And just like in Laravel, we have to pass in a CSRF field. So just do CSRF field as a method. And this should work if I didn't screw anything up. Testing form adding. Let's try this. Oh, actually, no. Did I don't think I redirected back. Did I redirect back? No, I did not. So after we create it to, we can just return response.redirect. And I just want to redirect back. So we can just do that. And then let's try this now. Testing form adding. Okay, so it redirected back. There's no flash message, which we'll take a look at in a second, but let's see if it went to the database. And there it is, testing from adding. Okay, so let's add in that flash message. So we just want a message here if it's successful, and also when there's errors, and we'll take a look at validation right after that. Back into our code. So right before here, we can do session.flash and then give it the message. So as an object, we want a success message, which we'll look for in the view, and any message you want. So to do was added. Okay. And let's make sure to grab the session from here as well. Sorry, this should be session, not session storage. Damn you, VS Code. Okay. So back to our view. So right above the form, I'm just going to put in where the flash message should go. So let's just put it in. Alert, success. Let's put a margin on it. Testing message. See if this is the right place. Okay, that looks fine. So what we have to do is just check. So in Edge, so Edge is the templating language. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. I'm sure if you look at the name, you'll see the relationship, blade, edge. Okay, so if there's directives here as well, we just want to check if there's a flash message. It's hard to say, flash message. We want to check if there's a success message. And then we can end the if here. Let's indent this. And then in here, we can output that. So it'd be flash message, success message. And that should flash the message. Let's try this again. Testing flash. That did not work. So let's check our to-do controller. Oh, typo. Success message. Okay, let's try it again. Another flash test. And there's a flash message. Cool. Okay, now let's take a look at validation messages. So error messages specifically. So let's take a look at validation and see how to do that. Okay. Okay, so there's this validator object that allows you to do validation. And scroll down a bit. So if you look at this example, this is pretty much what we're doing here, but with to-dos. So we're in the store method as well. Okay, so it starts here. So here are the rules. And here's where it validates against those rules. And here's where it checks if there's a validation error. And then it flashes it to the session, and then it returns back. Okay. So, and then here is where if it passed. So let's grab all of this and paste it into our code and change it up. Okay, so right here, first thing I need to do is import this. So let's go back to the top. Let's do const validate equals use validator. And let's change the rules here. So for the add to do field, we just want to make sure that it's required. And let's say minimum three characters, just so we can see the error messages. Okay, so here's where it validates and we're passing in the rules. And here is where it flashes to the session. Let's flash all here instead of flash except. Okay, so that should work. And let's go into our view and do the same thing and make sure we're checking for errors. So I'm going to duplicate this and change some stuff around. So instead of flash message, we have to check if there is an error. So has error 4. So you would do this for each field that needs to be checked, but in our case there's only one, so we can just say add to do because that's the field we're checking. And this is going to be danger. Let's change this to danger. And this would be get error 4. Get error 4, and it'll be add to do. Okay, let's see if this works. Let's back to here. Cannot find module validator. So I think you have to import it. Yeah, you have to install it actually. So let's do this for the CLI. Let me just exit out of this. And then we have to go to start app.js and add this to the providers array. So let's just do that. So start app right here, put that in, put a comma, okay. And now let's try that out. Okay, so let's try, because it's required, there should be an error. Sorry, there you go. There's a default message. And let's try less than 3 characters. And there's the default message. So these error messages aren't the greatest, so we can do custom error messages. Let me just show you that. So back into our controller, we can make another object here for messages. And we can specify, so for this field and for this specific rule, this is the message. So the add to do field is required. And same for the next rule, which in our case it's min. Add to field requires at least 3 characters. And here you would just pass in the messages. And now we should have custom messages. Okay, let's try again. There you go, custom message. Cool. Okay, so if we look at our code here, this is getting quite long. And all of this is just validation and can really muddy up your code. So in Laravel, there's something called form requests, which allow you to abstract this to a class. And in Adonis, we can do this as well using route validators. So if we go into the docs, we can extract all of that logic to a route validator. So let's go ahead and make that. So I'll just do this. And we'll call it store to do. And that should be in app validators store to do. And this is basically what we just had. So the rules, let me just grab the rules, paste that in. And we also want the messages. So we can just do get messages. Let's return an object. And let's grab it from here. So messages are these. Paste that in. And now all we have to do is, let's see. We just have to go into the routes file and add this validator method and specify the validator that we just made. So let's do that. Let's go into our routes. So into, this is for post. So that validator store to do is what we called it. And that should do it. So let's go back into our to do controller. And I'm going to leave it in here, but I'll comment it out. And this should work exactly the same way. So required, okay. There you go. Okay, so now let's work on reading. So obviously this information is just hard-coded and we want to show the information from the database in here. So let's go ahead and do that. So into our to-do controller, up in index, all we want to do is pass in the to-dos in here. So let's go ahead and do that. So const to-dos equals await. Make sure you await it or you'll get an error related to an unresolved promise. So to do all, just make use of this all method, just like an eloquent. And we already imported this, I think, from earlier. Yeah, we did. Cool. So yeah, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but Adonis's ORM is called Lucid. If you look in the docs, you'll see here. So Lucid ORM, which has a similar meaning to the word eloquent. So if you look at the definition for lucid, so expressed clearly, easy to understand, which has a similar meaning to eloquent. Fun fact. Okay, back to our code. And to pass it in, pass in the to-dos, all we have to do is say to-dos and to-dos. Let's make sure we get it to JSON. And now in our view, so in our index, we just have to loop over the to-dos. So in our case, it's just these LIs. I'm going to delete the other two. And then render out the appropriate data. So to do loops, just use the each method. So it's not using as, it's using in. So to do in to-dos is the one that's being passed in. So let's move this into here and indent that. Okay. And this should render out however many we have in the database. So we have 12 right now. So this should render out 12. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cool. And now we just have to replace this information here. So let's just do to-do.title. And we'll do this in a second. This has to be conditionally rendered based on if it's completed or not. Save this. Okay, cool. I think I forgot to take out the word record. Yeah. Oh, and screencast too. Sorry. So yeah, now let's conditionally render out that class. So class equals. So all we can do is just make a ternary here. So if to-do.completed, then we want a completed class. If not, just return nothing. And none of them are completed by default. So let's go ahead and change it in the database. Let's change this to 1. See if that, okay, so we have that line through. Cool. Oh, one thing I forgot here is if we type something in here and then there's an error message, we want this to maintain what was typed in before. So just like in Laravel, there is an old helper function. So right here, we can do value equals old and add to do. So that should do it. Let's try it again. So now this should maintain the A. Cool. Okay, now I'd like to work on editing. So the idea here is to click on this and this would go to its new page where we can either edit the title or check if it's completed or not. Let's do that. What happened here? Okay. Okay, let's start with the routes. And let's make a new one for, it's going to be a GET request. And the URL is going to be to do, and the ID goes here, and then /edit. So to do wildcards, in Laravel you do this, but in Adonis you do : and this is going to go to edit. So to do's, to do controller edit, and let's name it to do's edit. And let's go to the controller. Let's go to edit. And let's just return the ID in the URL. So to get that, there is this params object here, and we can just get the ID off of that. And back to our view. So right here, we want to specify that route we just made. So to do's.edit, and then we want to pass in the ID. That's going to be to do.id. Cool. And that should just dump out the ID. So there should be 1. Did I not refresh? Okay, so there's 1, 2. Okay, so it works. Cool. Okay, so we want a new view here when we click on this. So let's go ahead and do that. So right now we only have one view, and now's a good time to introduce layouts. So let me make a master layout here, which other views can extend from. So we can make a new master layout in here, or we can make use of, again, the Adonis CLI, which if you look at this, there is a make view, which Laravel is actually missing a make view generator, at least by default. So let's do this. Adonis make view. And we can actually specify a folder here, layouts and master. And that should make that folder. Cool. So I made that layouts master.edge. So I'm going to grab everything in index and put it in master and just remove everything inside the body. I'm going to cut this out. And here is where we want the content to go. So we do section content. And this is the syntax for if there's no closing tag. And we also want the title to be dynamic. So we can do @section title, and whatever is in between here, if we end it, will be the default. So let's do, actually, I want this to be in a title tag, title. And I want this to be the title. So let's say by default, it's Adonis to do app. Okay. And now in our index, we can use that layout we just made. So let me just delete all this. And let's specify the layout we want. So in our case, it's layouts.master. And let's specify section content. And we can end the section. And we can just paste in the rest. And this should still work like it did before. Let's go back. Okay, so this still works, but now we can make a new one for the edit view. So let's say edit. Okay, let's go to edit. Same thing. Let me just copy it. Actually, just this line. Okay, so if you want to change the title here, we just do this. Section title, and we can put whatever we want, and it will overwrite the default. So for example, if we wanted edit Adonis to do app, this would be a different title from whatever we had before. So for here, let me just put in the tags. End section. And let me just get most of everything in here, and then we'll modify it. By most, I mean everything. Okay. So this will be edit to do. And let's remove everything in the form. And obviously this list too. Form, we'll keep the form, but we'll remove this. Let's put the submit button back. So button class equals btn primary. Let's make sure it's a submit button. And let's, update to do. Okay. Did I get these brackets right? I think I did. Okay, let's see if this renders. Actually, no, I have to make it render. So back to our to-do controller. So let's just return that view we just made. So edit, and just see if it renders. Okay. Okay, cool. And while we're already in this file, let's pass in the to-do. So let's grab it again. Const to-do equals await to-do dot. There's also a find or fail method, like in Laravel. And we wanted the ID. And we want to pass in the to-do. And this will work since the names are the same. Just use ES6 for that, the shorthand version. Okay, let's continue working on the form. So let me just put in input for the text, form group, input text. So class equals form control, name equals edit to do, ID equals edit to do. And the value is going to be either the old version if it's in the session, or in our case, it's to do title if there's nothing in the session. Okay, see if that works. Okay, it does. And I'm just going to paste in the one for the checkbox, so you don't have to watch me do that. So it's a checkbox, and we have a conditional to see if it's checked or not, and it's just checking if the to-do is completed or not, and that will specify if it's checked. And that's basically it. Let's see if that works. So this one is completed, but the other ones should not be completed, so it should be unchecked. Cool. Okay, now we have to make a route for updating. So let's go ahead and do that. To our routes. And we're going to make a patch request here. So route.patch. And it's going to be to-dos ID. And it's going to be update, to-dos.update. Okay. Now let's go into the controller. And let's go to update right here. And let's grab it. Wait to do.find or fail params.id. And let's just update it. To do.title equals request.input. It's called edit to do. Is that what I named it? Yeah, edit to do. So to do.completed equals request.input. Okay, so for this, we have to check. So if it's checked or not, it's not going to come back as true or false. It's going to come back as on or nothing. So we just have to check if the input for completed check. So if it comes back as the string on, then we want to return true. And if not, false. And now we just want to save it. So make sure to await again. And return response. So the way I want it to work is if it's successful, I want it to go back to the index page. So we can do, instead of response redirect, we can do response route and just give it the index. We also want to flash a message similar to this. So let's grab this. Okay, and say to do was updated successfully. Okay, now back to the view. So edit. You have to change the form action here. And it's going to be to do's update. And we want to pass in the ID. So it's ID to do.id. But to specify that it's a patch request, in Laravel we have something called a method field, like this or something. I forgot what the exact syntax is. And you give it patch or something like that. Unfortunately, there's nothing like that in Adonis, at least not that I'm aware of. So to do that, we have to append a query string that says the method we want. So in our case, it's going to be plus, and it's to say question mark underscore method equals patch. And Yeah, let's see if this works. Okay, so this is going to be edit to do. I didn't do the validation yet, but I did do the successful case. At least I think I did. So let's see if I did that right. Let's make it completed. So this one, gutas nap, route not found. Let's see what I did wrong here. Oh, sorry. This goes in here. Yes. Try it again. Change completed. Let me refresh that. Changed, completed. Session is not defined. So that's in the controller. Where's my controller? Session here. Refresh. Okay, to do was updated successfully, and so there we go. It changed and it was marked as completed. So let me quickly add some validation. It's going to basically copy what we have in here. So I'm going to duplicate this and say update to do. And let's change to update. This will be edit. And let me just change these to edit. There's probably a way to combine them and just make it one file so it's cleaner. But we'll just separate them for here. And we can specify this in our router exactly like this, but with update to do. And I think that should work now. So if I try less, okay, awesome, so it does work. Changed, okay, cool. Okay, so we just have to do delete and then that's all. So let's quickly do delete. Start with the routes. Delete to-do's ID, and the method is destroy. Let's call it to-do's.delete, and there's no validator on it. Cool. Let's go into our controller. Let's go to the destroy method. So it's basically just this. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, so we're getting it. We don't have to update anything. We just have to await to-do.delete. And it's flash. To-do was deleted. And it's just redirect back. And now let's go into the index, because that's where the form for the delete button is. It's right here. So let's just do that. So these snippets actually come with the VS Code package for Edge. I just type in route and press tab and it does it automatically, so that's cool. So to-dos dot destroy. Did I name it destroy or delete? Delete. And the ID to-do.id plus method equals delete. And sorry, delete this one. And let's see if that works. Let's delete this one. Route not found. Get to-dos 12. Oh, we need method equals post here, and we also need the CSRF field. CSRF field. Let's try that again. Let's go back. So another flash test, delete. Session is not defined. Always forget that. So, no, not here. To do controller. Session. One more time. Oh, so it deleted there. Let's try again. Testing flash. There you go. To do was deleted successfully. So yeah, our app is complete. One more thing I want to show you is, again, just similar to Laravel, we have Adonis route list. If you want to list out all our routes, sorry. And we have this in a nice table. So there you have it, guys. We've managed to create a basic to-do app with all the CRUD functionality available. In the process, we've learned the basic features of AdonisJS. As you can see, it's very similar to Laravel, so you can pick it up quickly if you already have experience with Laravel and JavaScript. I actually just learned it in about a day, and I had no prior experience with any Node frameworks. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.